I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Tonight, Kenyans are counting hours to the inauguration of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto for a second and final term. At least 43 foreign delegations and 20 foreign leaders are to attend the ceremony. Over 100,000 people expected to witness the swearing-in event at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani. However, that number does not include the National Super Alliance, which has turned down Jubilee's invitation. NASA claims it does not recognize the legitimacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election and have organized a parallel event at Jacaranda Grounds here in Nairobi. The coalition claims it will dedicate the day to the people who died in chaos following the infamous Raila Odinga return from America 2 weeks ago. NASA also maintains it will pursue the cause of sustained civic action, economic boycotts, and the establishment of the People's Assembly. Meanwhile, President Uhuru Kenyatta has called for peace and unity ahead of his big day.
La kwanza ni amani kwa wananchi wote. Ya pili ni umoja ya Wakenya.
Serious indictment of our collective nation, conscience as a nation. And so we will be at the Jacaranda Grounds tomorrow. Secondly, we have reiterated and affirmed via resolutions as late as last Saturday in Manzoni that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka are the President and the Deputy President respectively. And we are putting measures in place to ensure that they officially take up office and start serving Kenyans.
So tonight on the show, I'll be speaking to Joseph Simea, who's a NASA strategist. Also later on the show, we hope to be joined by Kiambu Senator Paul Kimani wa Matiang'i. We will get to that in just a moment. But first, let's speak to our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna, for more on this. Sophia, good evening. It's good to speak to you today on the show. So, I mean, it's been an interesting number of events that have taken place leading up to this event that's slated for tomorrow.
Good evening, Yvonne. Yes, it's a big day for President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto, as tomorrow the swearing-in ceremony will be taking place for their second term in office to commence officially. And the gates there at the Kasarani Stadium will be opening at 4 a.m. All are invited, and what we understand, some of the measures that have been put in place to ensure that all goes well is, of course, very heavy and tight security. Arrivals for the general public, 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. The gates then will close, and there's a program thereafter for the arrival of dignitaries. We had heard from the Foreign Affairs, PS, that they're expecting 43 dignitaries, and this is an inclusion of presidents, heads of states and government, as well as envoys representing various countries that have been invited. An earlier spot check at the stadium, 9 flags from other countries had been hoisted already, that of Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Zambia, and this is some of the countries we're expecting their presidents to be in attendance, including we're hearing Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, could very much be in attendance. In fact, some of those dignitaries starting to jet in today. There's been heavy, crazy traffic this evening, and parts of Mombasa Road have been blocked to just allow those convoys to come in. The president is set to arrive at around 10:30, and remember, the law does indicate that he must take oath of office between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., Yvonne, not earlier, not later than that. So this time there will not be a transfer of the instruments of power as we saw in 2013, because he's continuing on. He has been president. And one other interesting note we have made so far, and as far as what to expect tomorrow, that when President Kenyatta raises the Bible to take oath of office, it will be the Bible that his father also used taking oath of office. So expected to be a colorful ceremony at the Kasarani Stadium, with the supporters showing up in their numbers, the invited guests. But as you pointed out at the beginning of the show, Yvonne, on one side it will be a celebration, it will be pomp and color, it will be a lot of happy people. But another picture will be unfolding on the other side. The National Super Alliance, this time around, not just sitting it out, but have planned out an array of activities. They have said what picture they want to come out tomorrow is that while one part of the country is celebrating, another is mourning, and they're mourning the deaths that occurred when former Prime Minister Raila Odinga returned from a 10-day U.S. trip. And then they will have another meeting at Jacaranda. Now, that we will wait to see how it plays out, because according to the authorities, they have said no such event should be taking place. The police officers and the police in charge, Nairobi, that there's not been any clearance given. However, we have seen members from the National Super Alliance share what they have written, notifying the police and other stakeholders of their events tomorrow, where it's a memorial services as well as the climax, which is that rally. Will we also see them seek to quote-unquote swear in Raila Odinga? We'll wait to see, but definitely promises to be a very eventful day. And even after the swearing-in ceremony at Kasarani, there'll then be the luncheon at State House, an invite-only affair. And it's a public holiday. However, many Kenyans need to remember that most roads will remain closed to facilitate the smooth movement, especially of the dignitaries that will still be arriving even tomorrow morning. Yvonne.
Thank you for that. So it's going to be an interesting day for the country tomorrow, like you have put it. Thank you for that, Sophia Wanuna, who is our lead reporter here on The Big Story, and that is our focus tonight. So we still await the arrival of Kiambu Senator Paul Kimani wa Matiang'i. As soon as we have him, we'll bring him on the show. But right now we have Joseph Simeha, who's a NASA strategist. Simeha, thanks for joining us on the show tonight. So let's start by, I want to start by asking you this. There's a tweet by Majority Leader Aden Duale who says that indeed you can meet on any other day other than tomorrow, considering the burial of those that died during, the clashes with the police is happening over the weekend.
So thank you very much, Yvonne, for having me this evening. I saw actually a very nice response to that tweet by Duale. And I think one of the members of public was educating him on something called choice. And he told him, just like some people choose to wait until Valentine's Day to tell others I love you, others choose to say much earlier. Like himself, I don't know who he was telling he loves. So it's a matter of choice. I think Duale has been educated enough that this is a matter of choice. When you have a right to do certain things, that right is guaranteed by the Constitution, by the law, by our norms, and you are doing that thing within our norms and traditions in the sense that you are not trampling on any other person's rights. You do it when you choose, not when other people tell you to do it. So the meeting of tomorrow by NASA is by choice, not what NASA is told by government or by the police or by Duale.
Okay. Some would say that, the Jubilee administration has made attempts to reach out to NASA. In fact, we do understand Raila Odinga has been invited to the swearing-in ceremony tomorrow. Indeed, we hear of reports that President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta has even reached out for talks with Raila Odinga, but that doesn't seem to assuage NASA and your concerns. Why not?
That so-called reaching out is a mockery. Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, and the rest of that team know very well what happened on the 8th of August, what has happened on the 26th of October, and the reasons why NASA has protested and said that we do not recognize the legitimacy of what they are calling elections. So you cannot again then call on the same leaders of NASA to crown and therefore make like they're legitimizing the product of those fraudulent processes. So that is really a mockery. I mean, the leaders of NASA have made invitations, requests, even pressured Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, and others in their company for dialogue, for discussions, for talks, to ensure that what bedevils the nation, the country, is dealt with in a bipartisan way, in a friendly way, in a manner that is for the benefit of all Kenyans, but not like a contest. But they have rebuffed all those entries from the NASA leaders. So now what we see posturing in the public or in the media, we really see it just as a mockery.
So what would they have to do to make it seems sincere.
Well, for now, they are, you know very well that they are going ahead with they are swearing in themselves as the president and deputy president, and NASA is going ahead with its political program. What they will have to do, they will be forced to do by citizens of this nation through the political program that NASA is pushing ahead with. And you know, Yvonne, the history of this country is replete with examples of where we've had autocratic leaders who believe that only their way or nothing else, but they have been forced onto their knees by citizen action. And that is we totally believe that is going to happen because the program that NASA has in place is a formidable program that will ensure that happens.
So I'm still not clear. What would it take, in your view, to get onto a negotiating table or to a table where there would be dialogue taking place?
There would have to be an acknowledgement of the fraud that took place on the 8th and the 26th. There would have to be a stoppage of calling this an election and referring to any product of that fraudulent process as a legitimate product, like the presidency, deputy president, and so on. They would have to be vacation of that position. They have to vacate that position, and then say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot continue like this anymore. Let us talk as a nation. Let us accept that things have gone terribly wrong, beginning particularly 2007, 8, 2013, and now was 2017. There would have to be that admission and a vacating of those positions that they've taken post-26.
All right, but some would say, Simeha, that you're asking them to vacate that position, what happened on October the 26th, but the Supreme Court did rule in their favor. Then throughout the petitions that were before them regarding, the presidential election, and some would say that this is the very same Supreme Court that, gave you victory after the August 8th elections, but that now you don't accept it because it is not in your favor?
Not at all, Yvonne. In fact, that is misplaced because it is not for NASA to accept or fail to accept the decision of the Supreme Court. As you know, that NASA was never party to those petitions. In fact, NASA had been sued as one of the respondents, and thank God the court saw it fit to remove NASA from that position, and that we very gladly accepted because we had been forced as NASA to respond to one of those cases. But when the
but Simeha, nonetheless, the decision of the Supreme Court is binding on everyone, whether you are party to it or not. And some would say that this is actually directly ignoring what the Supreme Court said. So do you disagree with the Supreme Court when they said that, the election of October 26th holds and that, Uhuru Kenyatta was validly elected on the 26th of October? Because regardless of whether you are party to it, just like the 40 million plus Kenyans who are not direct stakeholders in that case, but, abiding by it and moving forward.
We disagree with the court that there was any election dispute in the first place to preside over, in the sense that there's a winner and a loser, and that there are losers who are petitioning or people who are unhappy with it. But we recognize the right of those people to petition. It's not up to us to legitimize their petitions. That has to go on record, that we recognize their right to petition and to want to contest that election, but not for NASA. So when the Supreme Court makes the decision it made, and NASA pronounced itself very well on what it thinks of the Supreme Court, that is not the same court that made decisions post-August 8. Now it's been overflogged. The reasons have been overflogged. The intimidation of those judges and what happened, the climax being on the 25th of October, when of all the courts in this country, a Supreme Court could not raise a quorum for a very critical case. That's when we knew all is lost with regards to the judiciary as a place to go to when we do not agree with on the political scene. So from 25th of October, it was, we closed that door. We did not look there at all. We didn't even put it into consideration that it's one of the places we would go to, at least not in the sense of presidential election. Maybe other things, but not in the sense of presidential election, because the court itself had already been fixed.
So you're casting aspersions on the Supreme Court judges? Are you saying they were compromised?
These things, Yvonne, are in the public domain. It's not just Simeha saying, it's not NASA saying. The threats that they faced, the intimidation, the violence that came so close to some of them, the failure to meet a quorum is not casting aspersions. It's stating a fact that exists in history, whether anybody likes it or not. They did fail to raise a quorum. It's unimaginable, incredible. Now, when that happens and we look at the background preceding that, we can infer, we would say that without fear of contradiction, that we know why they didn't happen to raise a quorum. So from that moment of the 25th of October, we knew that that is not one of the places for now we will look at with regards to solving the dispute around elections, electoral justice in this country. We knew that we have to up the ante with regards to the political program. We knew that in future, the Supreme Court and part of the judiciary would have to be one of the places we come to and fix as a nation so that it never happens again.
All right. I would like to remind our viewers that we're still waiting for Kiambu Senator Paul Kimani wa Matiang'i. As soon as we have him, we will definitely have him join in to talk to us about the way forward and what President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta's plans for the country will be following the swearing-in that is slated for 10 a.m. tomorrow at the Kasarani Stadium. But let's listen to Eric Iraithe, who's government spokesman, on NASA's plans for tomorrow.
Every meeting called by anybody to execute an unlawful purpose is an unlawful assembly. When you avail yourself for such meetings, expect the full force of the law, or other factors notwithstanding. To our brothers who are in political opposition, as a government, the message is very simple. Placing wave after wave of deceptive propaganda on the toiling shoulders of your electorate will not move this country forward, and it is not the purpose for which democracy was generated.
Simeha, your reaction to that?
Yes, I heard that, and I just said, it's not up to Kiraithe. He's free to say whatever he wants to say, but we don't do what we do on the basis of advice from Eric Kiraithe. For us, it's not the one who determines what is legal and what's not legal, what is lawful and what's not lawful. We have actually much better minds than him in terms of determining what is constitutional, what is lawful, and what is not. I could give him 1,001 lessons in law on what we can do and what we cannot do. It's not up to government to allow us, or up to a policeman like Kiraithe to allow us to do what we know very well is lawful and is constitutional. So it's actually, that's, by the way, Yvonne, what you could call as casting aspersions, deciding that you think that what NASA will do tomorrow is unlawful. When it hasn't even happened, NASA's communicated an intention, given notice. And the reason for giving notice, by the way, is not for police to allow. That really needs to sink into people's minds. In accordance to our constitution and the law, it is not for the police to allow. The police have no such powers. It is for the police to know, one, so that they provide security, two, so that because that's a public space, a shared space. If there's any other persons then who come after that to allege that they would like to use the same space, then the police notify them that, by the way, there's another group that has already given notice to use that public space. So it's out of respect for the law and courtesy that such notification is given to the police, not at all for them to allow, because it is not in their powers to allow. Right. Or disallow, for that matter. All
right, Joseph Simeha, who's a NASA strategist, still waiting for Senator Matiang'i from Kiambu County to join us on the show tonight. This is the eve of the oath. President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta set to take oath of office for his second and final term tomorrow at 10 a.m. As Sophia Wanuna told us, our lead reporter here, it has to happen between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. by law. We're looking at what happens now, the way forward. We'll be right back.